I'm the SVP for engineering, and so I handle a lot of our platform stuff on the retail side for e-commerce. I wanted to go through a couple of quick numbers with you just to talk about the scale that we operate on. It's absolutely incredible. These are our 2011 numbers. So, we are the #3 e-commerce site on the internet. Amazon and eBay are in front of us, but we at peak have traffic that can dwarf them. So if you ever want to work on big scale problems, particularly ones that come in like a tidal wave and scare the living daylights out of you, I'm good to talk to, Shaq's good to talk to, he'll talk a little later. But we do almost close to $1 billion in sales in a year, and we do 82 million tickets. We actually do 47% of every ticket sold in the United States comes from Ticketmaster. We do 22% of every ticket sold in the world. And we're not even in a whole heck of a lot of countries. It's a pretty slim number. So that's huge scale to deal with. As we go through and we look at what we do in engineering, we really try to deal with about 7 core problems. And these are the sort of 7 things that keep us up at night and we look at and we try to focus on as we work on our platform. And we work on cloud computing, social commerce, analytics, mobile, unsold inventory, automation, and personalization. We really want to give everybody who comes to our site a very personal experience on whatever device, whenever they want a ticket. We want to basically bring out the fan in everyone and get them in first to the show. So how do we do that? We use lots of great technology. Y'all laugh, but there's a little bit of element to seriousness to this. Ticketmaster's a little over 30-year-old company, and we actually started on these machines, and we still have vestiges of them in the infrastructure. But what's really exciting about Ticketmaster is we don't want vestiges of them in our infrastructure. We're rebuilding the platform. We started over in the last year and a half, 2 years, and we're re-engineering a very SOA-driven architecture. It's a completely ground-up rewrite using Java to do web services, basically, along with a lot of COTS pieces that make a whole heck of a lot of sense, like Oracle, Mongo, DB, MySQL, stuff you'll hear about a little later. Some incredible heavy-duty lifting analytics, and basically taking a very deep vertical stack and making it into an incredibly scalable platform. It's a very exciting engineering effort. We're spun up all over the world doing this. We've got some of our Canadian friends here tonight who can talk about life in Quebec. We've got offices up in Seattle, which is where I'm from, and proud to get down here and escape the rain once in a while. Phoenix, Arizona, Chantilly, Virginia, San Francisco Bay Area. So we've got a lot of people all over the world coming together, really building out a very distributed system that's using some pretty exciting technology to be able to perform at that scale we talked about. With that, I'm going to hand the baton over to John Carnahan. He's going to talk about some of the cool data analytics stuff that we're doing as part of this platform.
He is the sexiest man in the company.
Data science, oh my gosh.
The sexiest profession. That just embodies me. Right, so I'm fairly new at Ticketmaster. I've only been here a year. That's I guess about a minute in time span compared to everybody else at Ticketmaster, it seems. I was brought in to do some interesting things with the data. The biggest thing about Ticketmaster is not only the scale, but the data that's been around for a long period of time that records transactions about people who attend these events. The most special thing about these events is that, and why I came to this company, was that events are one of the few things that you can't steal. Right? So if there is a treasure trove of data out there for something that can't be stolen, that was a big attractor for me to come here. So the things that I've been... Cool. Right, so these are some of the things that bringing to this. I brought this huge word thing. I didn't make this thing. I just stole it. So because we're not actually working on cancer, we're actually working on malaria research. Yeah, so just so you understand that I didn't steal it. But so we're involved in everything from data warehousing, standard data warehousing, just pouring lots of source data into data that can be used in something actionable like business intelligence, event marketing around personalization and recommendations. So there's transaction data out there, and there's lots of companies in this space who would die for the data that we have that simply shows, hey, this person went to this event, this person went to this event. Can you build something that predicts, hey, if I bought this ticket, what's the next ticket I'm likely to buy? We can do that with these data. Machine learning, lots of experience in machine learning and data mining. I'd love to talk more about that. User classification, fraud detection. That's probably the hottest topic that we're working on right now, which is, as most of you know, we have a problem with ticket brokers and bots. I'm not sure if you'd call it a problem. but they buy the tickets. But when it's malicious and they're stopping other people from buying tickets, if we can use machine learning and at scale, at the scale that Ticketmaster Online has, if we can do something about that, not only inhibit the people who are doing those bad things, but also people who are coming through and really just want to buy a ticket, to let them through as quickly as possible. Let's see what else we got here. This is just some interesting tidbits about our scale. I actually didn't put this one together either. I stole this one as well. But yeah, just to give you an idea of the amount of scale of data that we have. 100 million unique records, but that's just really just the transactional data. You can imagine the structured, the semi-structured, the unstructured data that goes along this as well. You know, you need massive scale. And I know that sounds trite these days, you know, especially when you hear big data kind of thrown around. But this is really a large amount of data that hasn't been touched by human hands. So one of the tools that we do, and people are certainly looking for people who have experience or even interest in this space, is people are interested in Hadoop. Hadoop being, if you're not familiar with it, just an offline data processor. How do you do things where if you want to look at data and you're not looking at a table, you want to do table scans across 100 million records? What's the best way to do it? This metaphor and the software that's used to do this is really good for that. People that in my group have as much experience as you could possibly have with Hadoop, being that I was one of the originators of the project. Storm is also one of the newer ones that we're using. This actually has come out of Twitter. If you haven't heard of it and you're interested in it, it's a really fascinating tool that solves some of the fundamental problems with dealing with large amounts of stream data. So it's not a storage device, but it's a way of depending on another piece of software to manage what's really hard about processing large bits of data. It's actually created by the Twitter guys. It's pretty good stuff. So we're using this as a core component for what I mentioned before, which is classifying users in real time as they're going through the Ticketmaster Online site. And with that, I'll pass it over to Shaq. Thanks.
This? Yes, sir. Cool. So I'm Shaquille Sarathia. First of all, let me get the questions out of the way. Yes, that's my name. Yes, I go by Shaq. No, I was not named after the basketball player. So I always get those questions. So
because you're certainly tall enough to be one.
The TV ad's about 18 inches and like $100 million. So I'm part of the technical operations group, and specifically, I run the systems engineering group. So I kind of have a slide here. I think it's the next slide with the graphic. So let me prep it first. Last week, I took my daughter to the Science Center, and if you guys have seen all the stuff, the Endeavor is parked over there, and it's really, really cool. So of course we had to go check it out, and we looked at it, and I was looking at this thing going, wow, you know, this is a marvel of engineering development. I mean, it's just amazing to see that, you know, how many people had to get together to put this thing in there. And then you try to say, okay, well, what if I were part of this, what would be our role? So that works. So that little thing right there at the top, inside that cockpit, that's kind of us. And if you think about it, that's kind of what tech ops and that's kind of what our functions do. There's engineers that are building the engines, and they're building the computer systems, and they're building avionics, and they're doing all these things, right? But then at the end of the day, somebody has to go climb up that ladder, hop into that cockpit, and get blasted into outer space on a couple of Roman candles. And you kind of just sit there and you pray and you hope, I really hope everybody else did their job right. And that's kind of what like our on sales and things are like. I mean, it's hectic, things will break. You gotta really, get into it, understand what's going on. And so we're kind of part of everything. If you really think about it, those people, they have to know how the engines work. They have to know how the computers work. They have to know all of these different components. They're kind of involved in all of these different components because they're the ones that are getting blasted up. So that's kind of us.
So Shaq, basically you're the guys who die when the rocket blows up.
Right. We get to, yes. That's very appropriate. Yes, we get yelled at too. But, what are our challenges? I mean, obviously, it's not as cool as going into space. I mean, We sell tickets. It's not going into outer space. But what are our challenges? First of all, we've got scale. As I don't remember if it was John or Cameron pointed out, we deal with a lot of traffic. I mean, to put it in perspective, and we deal with traffic in a weird way. So there's a little graph here where you can see there's like no traffic happening on the site until in 1 minute it shoots up 10x. That is a very challenging environment to work in because, and you see, within very little time, it's back down to nothing. Everything is over very quick. You don't have a lot of time to sit there and just wonder, oh, what's going on? You got to be quick. You got to be on your feet. You got to really think about what's going on. But you have to be able to manage that too. You have to realize that there's going to be failures in the system. There's going to be things like that. And those types of challenges are really hard when you're talking about automation and getting all this data out and everything like that. We're global. I mean, 6 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, we just did the Olympics in London, right? So we had to support a ticketing system that was global in scale. People in Europe wanted to go see these events, and so we did that side. And it's constantly changing, right? Again, you go back to the metaphor of being blasted into space. It is constantly changing. There are things going on. You have to react to them. You have to deal with them. You have to plan for them, anticipate. So it's a lot of automation, a lot of things like that. So it's a really challenging environment. So when you look at what do we do and what do we specialize in? What are the challenges that we got to actually deal with? It was kind of like, okay, what do we do? Really, what do we not do? Cameron talked a lot about our scale. Well, of course, we manage scale. John talked a lot about the data. Well, of course, we have to figure out how to collect that data. We have to help these guys, build a lot of their things. So there's a lot of things around application design. We're definitely involved with Harry, who's our architect, in how to design these applications. We've done a lot in open source development. So we've actually open sourced our configuration management system. We have in other projects, we've definitely contributed code to the open source community. We do a lot of that type of stuff. Obviously, there's systems, databases, and network, right? So huge network. I think we've got something like 2,000 endpoints on our WAN. We've got systems located in I don't know how many countries at this point. I think it's five countries, something like that. So databases, we've got. Ed will talk a little bit more about that, but we got a lot of those too. So, who can kind of handle this stuff? And it was kind of like, okay, you have to have the courage to get on the ride. You can't think of it as an environment where I'm just going to coast. I'm just going to chill and just do my thing, and it'll be all good. No, you've got to be. You talk to anybody here at TicketMaster, and one thing you will hear is, "Wow, we're doing a lot of things." You have to be willing to do a lot of things. You got to have that courage. It's challenging. It's hard. It's in a different area. It's stuff that, some stuff you've taken from here, some stuff that you've taken from there, and you kind of put it all together. And you got to be able to do that. And of course, you got to be kind of smart. I won't say we're all that smart. At least we're not as sexy as this guy over here. But you got to have the ability to solve problems, right? So you got to think on your feet. There's a problem. You don't run away from it. You think about it. You solve it. And you tell somebody else about it. So that's kind of what we do. And now I will turn it over to Ed. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I've met some of you already, so.
Kind of like a little Hugh Hefner tone.
Yeah, I know.
My name's Ed Perez. I've met some of you. I've been with TicketMaster since 2000, so I've been here a long time. I've seen it all. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of the database team. If you have any database questions, please corner me, and I'll be happy to fill in the details for you. So I'll move forward here. Here's just the team. This is a very important meeting, as you can tell. But I have 30 database members located globally across the world. I have DBAs in London. I have DBAs in Hollywood. I have DBAs in Oregon, as well as Quebec City and Virginia. So I have folks across the globe, and there's database administrators who focus on the operational stuff. There's database engineers, and there's architects. And those folks are busy designing the ticketing engine of the future. They're also focusing on new enhancements to TicketMaster.com and some of the other products that we support that keep us out in front of the competition. We do cool stuff. I mean, I've been here for almost 13 years, and what's kept me here is I'm constantly doing cool things. Our business is cool, our data is cool, and we deal with scale and performance. I think that's second to none. We develop and support databases that power TicketMaster.com and LiveNation.com. I think TicketMaster.com is third largest e-commerce site in the world. We sell a lot of tickets. We're also busy developing the ticketing platform of the future. You've heard the term Jetson. That's kind of the code name for our ticketing environment that's going to power us in the next generation. And then last, I've been here for 12 years. I've been through 3 Olympics. Cool stuff. I mean, I feel empowered. Worked on Athens, I worked in Beijing, and now we worked on London. It's cool to see those projects come to fruition, and it's a great team effort. So just from a sheer database perspective, we do really cool things. I've supported insurance databases. I've supported child welfare systems. I've done a lot of work in the database space, and working at Live Nation has by far been the coolest for me. What platforms do we support? I've kind of worked the room a little bit and talked about what we do and what databases we support. A big one is Oracle. I mean, most of you probably heard these terms, but Oracle is the big one. It's really one of the transaction engines behind TicketMaster.com. We can sell in excess of 15,000 tickets per minute.
Wow.
And that information goes into Oracle. So when you see those spikes during the 10 a.m. on sale, like for example today, Taylor Swift on sales. We sold over 30,000 tickets. No, actually 300,000, excuse me. 300,000 tickets for Taylor Swift alone just today. Our systems work so great, we sell tickets a lot easier now than we used to. MySQL's a big one. When you come to the website and you look for events, maybe you're a Laker fan, you want to go to a Lakers game, everything that goes into finding that event you want to go see is in MySQL. And then when you transact, we write you to Oracle. I can talk more about that, just corner me if you want to know how we use Oracle and MySQL in conjunction. And then this next one's a new one. It's the NoSQL solution, MongoDB. As we embark on our Jetson project, we're looking at NoSQL solutions. They're getting a lot of momentum in the industry, and we don't want to be left behind on that. So we just recently signed a support contract for MongoDB. I saw some of you guys have MongoDB experience. That's great. Thanks for coming out. And then the last one is Microsoft SQL Server. We're using that in some places kind of through the merger with Live Nation. We still have some SQL Server applications that we support. So I think that's basically it. I want to just say thanks to everyone for coming. I want to let you know that really some of the big hitters on the technical side are here from Live Nation, TicketMaster. So take advantage of this and corner Joe or Cameron. So I'll turn it over to Joe.
So Q&A, yeah, we're not going to do Q&A like this. We'll just, everybody can mingle. Just find a guy with a TM shirt. But thanks for coming out. Really, really appreciate you guys coming out and spending some time with us. I think, look, the takeaway from this is, and it struck me after 13 years, you're going to find that a lot at Ticketmaster. There's a lot of people at Ticketmaster who have been here for a really long time, and there's a reason for that. I mean, it's a bitchin' company. It's in LA. If you're in LA, there's not a lot of companies, you know, with the sort of legacy and scale and technical challenges that we have. And part of the Live Nation family, you know, gives us access to, you know, a ton of interesting things that are going on in the music industry. And I would tell you that with the team that we've hired, you know, we are sort of bar none in this particular part of the world, you know, really excelling at bringing on top talent. So I think it's a really cool place to work. You know, I'm a little biased, obviously, but you take some time, talk to some people here. Hopefully you walk away with that same impression. And if not, come find me at the bar and I'll buy you a drink and we'll talk some more about it. Anyway, we're going to end that. I mean, hopefully you got a little bit of a flavor for what we're doing. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more going on here. And I really appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone.